A common trope in Star Wars involves our heroes battling otherworldly creatures on their adventures. In the original film, our heroes are attacked in the Death Star trash compactor by the Dianoga. The Millennium Falcon narrowly escapes from the mouth of a giant slug in The Empire Strikes Back, and Luke Skywalker has to battle Jabba the Hutt's pet Rancor at Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. Another related incident that occurred often enough to be a trope is native creatures attacking the main rebel bases. This video presents tales of monsters that attack the rebel bases on Yavin 4 and Hoth, as well as a near encounter at the base on Arbra, and along the way, we will examine if the rebels were simply unlucky or incompetent with regards to these mishaps. The Night Beast from classic Star Wars number 8 and 9. Imperials have been blockading Yavin 4 and probing the Massassi outpost's defenses routinely since its discovery after the destruction of the Death Star. The Millennium Falcon penetrates the blockade returning from a recent mission, and it shoots down a TIE bomber which crashes into Massassi Temple ruins near the base. That night, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia attend another celebration for a recent rebel victory over the Imperials. I'm guessing they hold these parties to keep morale up, but it still strikes me as odd because they are in an active war zone. Outside, one of the observation towers is attacked and topples onto the tarmac, which is heard by the partygoers. Accusations are thrown at Chewbacca because he was spotted leaving just before the incident. This is an interesting twist in the story that adds a bit of realism, but unfortunately, it is not expanded on. It turns out, Chewie entered the jungle because he sensed danger. As he was wandering, he comes across a large creature which immediately attacks. The ruckus is heard by the rebels investigating the collapsed tower, and Han and Luke swiftly move toward the commotion. There, they see the creature toss Chewie away, and it turns to rush them. Their blasters are ineffective, and the creature runs right by them. After rescuing Chewbacca, the trio return to the base to witness the aftermath of the monster's rampage through the hangar. They surmise the creature is still in the rebel headquarters, so they send out scouting parties to find it. After a thorough search, the rebels are unable to track the monster's location. Luke, Han, and C-3PO are discussing where the creature could have gone when Luke is given the idea to use the Force to help with the hunt. Luke goes to the hangar and starts reaching out with the Force, but he doesn't sense the creature. He does stumble across a hidden passageway, however, which he and R2-D2 enter. The pair discover a network of passages below the Massassi ruins and ultimately find a sleeping chamber damaged from the downed TIE bomber. Luke postulates the creature must have been lying dormant in the chamber. While this is going on, Leia is upset at Han for letting Luke pursue the beast on his own, and she is determined to prepare for the monster's eventual return while also searching for the missing Luke. Back in the tunnels, Luke and R2-D2 are piecing together why the creature was there by accessing the ancient machinery near the chamber when it attacks. Luke sends R2-D2 back the way they came while he distracts the creature. Luke begins climbing the hole left by the TIE bomber, and as the creature closes in, he brandishes his lightsaber knowing his blaster is useless. The monster lashes out violently and the structure collapses, but Luke is able to grab a vine before he tumbles down onto the beast. The noise is heard by Han and Chewie, who come and rescue Luke. They race back to the base and Luke retrieves R2 from the hidden passage. They learn from R2-D2's recordings that the chamber is a suspended animation capsule and the creature was left behind by the Massassi ruins' original inhabitants as a guardian. C-3PO further explains the creature uses the Force to defend itself. Just then, the Guardian returns and begins to violently attack the base. Luke tells Leia to withdraw the rebels while he nears the monster and attempts to use the Force to communicate with the beast. The monster lunges at Luke, who retreats into the hangar where R2-D2 is playing an ancient recording of the creature's masters fleeing the planet. The Guardian is transfixed by the images. With the creature now calm, Luke is able to reach out with the Force and lead it to a prepared Rebel spacecraft. Once the Guardian is secured aboard the craft, it launches, programmed to follow the path taken by the creature's original masters. It is crazy to me that the tunnels were not discovered by the initial reconnaissance of the area or when the Rebels were installing their equipment in the ruins. How can an entire hidden tunnel system exist under the ruins and the Rebellion never once discover them or the capsule containing the Guardian during their lengthy stay? I would think scanners would have been sufficient to learn about both. It is fortuitous that the Guardian was dormant for so long and Luke had learned enough about the Force from Obi-Wan Kenobi to be able to handle the situation. While their lapse on Yavin 4 is extremely clumsy, their next encounter with vicious native wildlife is a little bit more understandable given their hasty retreat from Yavin 4 to escape Darth Vader and his recently commissioned flagship, the Executor. Wampas attack Echo Base from Star Wars number 39 and 40. Driven from Yavin 4 by the approaching Imperial battlecruiser, the Executor, the rebels quickly flee to a hastily established Echo Base on Hoth. Luke Skywalker is riding his Tauntaun on patrol when he is viciously attacked by a Wampa, which drags our hero back to its lair. Meanwhile, back at Echo Base, Princess Leia has learned Han Solo is leaving, and they start an argument in a tunnel just off the hangar. Right after they leave the tunnel, a Wampa breaks through the ice wall. Outside the base, Luke finds himself hanging upside down in the creature's lair. He uses the Force to retrieve his lightsaber and frees his legs and injures the creature. He races outside into the frigid night air and swirling snow. Back at the base, Han learns that Luke has not returned from his patrol and heads out on his Tauntaun to search for his friend. Han does find Luke and is able to erect a shelter to keep them both safe from the extreme cold. In the morning, they are both brought back to Echo Base. Luke's injuries from the Wampa are treated in a bacta-tank while R2-D2 is in a corridor whose walls suddenly collapse. Shortly afterwards, rebels are battling more Wampas in the passageway. At the command center, General Riken informs Princess Leia that their base's scanners will need to be adjusted to detect the creatures. Later on, we learn the rebels have trapped the Wampas using high-pitched sounds. Echo Base on Hoth is still being built when this incident occurs, and we learn the rebels are taking precautions. They are sending out frequent patrols to scout the area, and their scanners as calibrated did not work because the Wampas have subnormal life functions due to their living in the extreme cold. Additionally, they are also monitoring the heavy meteor activity in the system. It is just unlucky they established a base near an infestation of Wampas. Once they learned about the problem, they acted quickly and utilized technology to contain the danger. The Rebellion established another main base on Arbra shortly after the Battle of Hoth, but this time, due to the heroics of Chewbacca, C-3PO, and R2-D2, they narrowly avoid a direct attack by yet another malevolent creature. The Darker from Star Wars number 67. After the rebels are driven from Hoth, they utilize several temporary bases throughout the galaxy to hide from the Galactic Empire. Searching for a suitable location to gather, they soon discover the planet Arbra and help a local species, the Hoojibs, to rid a cave of a terrible monster. The cave contains near infinite power derived from the planet's core, which the Hoojibs feed on. As thanks to the rebels, the Hoojibs invite them to establish their main base there. Months later, the rebels are assembling to learn more about Han Solo's whereabouts from Princess Leia when R2-D2 hears a plea for help from an unexplored tunnel in the cave. You would think after being attacked by the Guardian at the Massassi outpost and the Wampas at Echo Base, the rebels would have explored every avenue of the cave before establishing their main base there, but they didn't. R2's entering the tunnel is witnessed by a Hoojib who informs their leader Pliff. Pliff tells C-3PO that R2-D2 has entered a dangerous tunnel that they avoid, and C-3PO enlists the aid of Chewbacca to help recover his companion. C-3PO, Chewie, Pliff, and a few other Hoojibs enter the tunnel and soon encounter an energy field blocking their path. C-3PO and the Hoojibs are able to pass the field easily, but Chewbacca has to fight his way through the barrier. On the other side, they discover a large cavern filled with a dead city. As they enter the city, they soon find R2-D2 disassembled, but before they can rescue the droid, a creature called the Darker appears. The Darker invites the group to enjoy a meal with it, and some of the Hoojibs are sent to inform Princess Leia of the situation. The Darker explains it is the manifestation of the planet's former occupants who shed their base emotions of anger, hatred, and fear. The inhabitants left to another world, leaving the Darker behind in the city surrounded by a force screen. Sensing the rebels' arrival on the planet, the Darker has spent months planning his escape so he could utilize the rebels' technology to pursue the people that left him behind. This story has a lot of similarities to the tale of the Night Beast. The Night Beast was originally published in newspaper comic strips from March 8th to May 16th, 1982, where this story was printed by Marvel a few months later in October of the same year. It does make you wonder if David Michelini didn't concoct this tale after reading the other story. The Darker further explains the force screen blocks negative emotions from passing through it, but he is able to project negative emotions into any being within the screen's boundary. We then learn the Hoojibs sent to warn Leia are frozen with fear and unable to leave. Chewbacca attacks the Darker, but the creature instills hatred into Chewie's mind, and Chewie turns that anger against C-3PO, who flees. C-3PO is able to evade Chewie and reassemble R2-D2. When Chewbacca catches up to C-3PO, the droid wisely uses Chewie's emotional attachment to his friend Han Solo to free the Wookiee from the Darker's spell. Chewie attacks the Darker, and the Darker loses his concentration on the Hoojibs. They join the fray, and Chewie is able to grab the Darker and throw him into the force screen, causing the malevolent creature to disintegrate. The massive release of negative energy causes the city to begin to collapse, and Chewie grabs C-3PO and R2-D2 and races to the tunnel, followed closely by the Hoojibs. They barely make it out of the cavern when the city completely collapses. In this story, the Darker never attacks the rebel base, but it is easy enough to imagine that if it was successful in freeing itself from its prison, it would have done so with devastating results. Its ability to project negative thoughts into other beings' minds would have had the rebels fighting each other. Thanks to the intervention of Chewbacca, C-3PO, and R2-D2, this menace was dispatched before it became a danger. It seems unforgivable after problems at their prior two main bases, the rebels didn't do a better job of thoroughly exploring the caverns on Arbra. There were other smaller rebel outposts spread throughout the galaxy, but it is wild that all three main bases established by the rebels all experienced problems with native creatures. So what do you think? Was the rebellion simply unlucky, or was there a degree of incompetence at play here? I tend to think the first two occurrences were unlucky, but by the time they established the base on Arbra, they should have taken more precautions to avoid the problems they encountered at their earlier locations. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe so I can bring you more content, and please leave a comment below.